A story about invisible guardians of health based on Family Medical Diaries. The human body is equipped with many ingenious defense systems, most of which operate with little or no human intervention. The skin, mucous membranes, and immune system all work closely together to maintain balance and ward off attacks from the outside. But there is one exceptional place where defense is most elegant: the ear canal. Only a few areas of the human skin are capable of secreting substances with antimicrobial activity directly onto the surface. Most often, such areas are covered with mucous membranes. The lips, mouth, nasal passages, and other areas where microbes and contaminants can potentially penetrate. Mucous membranes not only create a physical barrier, but are also regularly renewed, washing away microbes and other contaminants. Unlike other organs that are in constant contact with the environment, the ear canal has no mucous membrane. Its walls are lined with ordinary epithelium, a type of skin cell that, like all skin, is constantly renewed, exfoliated, and sheds dead cells. But the ear canal is the gateway to the depths of the skull, and its protection must be especially reliable. This is where earwax comes into play, a sticky, yellow-brown substance that is often mistakenly considered simply unnecessary waste. In fact, earwax is a complex biological material consisting of the secretion of the sebaceous and ceruminous glands, as well as particles of dead epithelium. At the mouth of the ear canal, wax performs several functions at once. It binds and captures exfoliating skin cells and dust particles. To prevent fungi and bacteria from developing on this organic matter, wax preserves them. It creates a physical barrier to the penetration of water, dust, and insects. It has an acidic reaction, preventing the growth of fungi and bacteria. The pH level of earwax is at 4.0 to 6.0, acidic environment, which also prevents the development of bacteria and fungi. pH equals 4 is poison for most microorganisms. It contains antimicrobial substances that suppress the reproduction of pathogenic microorganisms. Earwax contains proteins, mineral salts, and fatty acids. Some proteins are immunoglobulins that perform a protective function against pathogenic microorganisms. Thus, earwax not only preserves organic matter, but also makes it inaccessible for the development of harmful microbes. It is a real bioconservative that protects the internal structures of the ear. Earwax glands are not present anywhere else on the skin. This is the only place on the skin where the body constantly secretes a substance that is poisonous to microorganisms. The epithelial cells of the ear canal, like the skin cells on the entire surface of the body, are constantly renewed. Old, dead organic matter moves from the depths to the outside, gradually penetrating into the earwax. As a result, this process creates a dynamic flow that carries out everything unnecessary, potentially dangerous or unnecessary. Earwax is excreted naturally during conversation, chewing food, when moving the temporomandibular joint and the anterior wall of the ear canal. The ear canal is the only place on human skin where poison in the form of antimicrobial substances is constantly released to the surface, despite the absence of mucous membranes. Thanks to earwax and epithelial renewal, this small organ becomes a reliable barrier to many potential threats. The protective mechanisms of the ear canal are an example of how simplicity and functionality are combined in God's creation for the sake of maintaining health. In the history of medicine, issues related to ear disease have always occupied a special place. The external auditory canal is a structure that is vulnerable to environmental influences. Improper care of it often leads to the development of complex inflammatory processes associated with fungal flora and pathogenic bacteria. Despite the modern arsenal of pharmacological agents, the treatment of such infections sometimes becomes almost impossible, which requires the search for alternative methods at the intersection of medical science and folk wisdom. The external auditory canal is a narrow channel approximately 2.5 centimeters long, covered with skin and supplied with sebaceous and sulfur glands. Its main function is to conduct sound waves to the eardrum, protecting the internal structures of the ear from dust, foreign bodies, and pathogens. However, modern care habits often disrupt the natural balance of microflora. Excessive use of cotton swabs, aggressive cleaning, exposure to chemicals and water when bathing destroy the protective layer of sulfur, opening the way for fungi and bacteria. As a result, so-called otomycosis develops, a fungal infection of the ear canal, as well as bacterial infections resistant to modern therapy. In recent decades, there has been an increase in the incidence of otomycosis due to the development of a culture of excessive hygiene of the ear canal. Dermatologists and otolaryngologists state that up to 10% of inflammatory diseases of the outer ear are associated with fungal flora. The main pathogens are the genera Aspergillus and Candida, but other rare species of fungi may also be present. The main difficulty in treatment lies in the formation of microbial and fungal biofilms on the skin of the ear canal. These biofilms protect microorganisms from the action of antiseptics and antifungal drugs, reducing the effectiveness of traditional treatment methods and contributing to the chronicity of the process. Modern pharmacotherapy of otomycosis and bacterial infections of the ear canal involves the use of antimycotics, antibiotics, and antiseptic solutions. However, relapses of the disease are extremely common. Fungal cultures quickly acquire resistance to drugs, and long-term use of antibiotics, on the contrary, further disrupts the microflora and promotes the growth of fungi. The scientific literature emphasizes that there is still no universal treatment protocol for chronic combined fungal bacterial ear infections. In some cases, the pathology becomes incurable, leading to hearing loss, constant discomfort, and even disability. In search of non-standard solutions, I turned to family archives, where the diaries of several generations of doctors are stored. These records are not only a valuable source of historical information, but also a treasure trove of forgotten practices that helped fight infections in an era when antibiotics did not exist. One of the diaries, dated to the second half of the 19th century, describes a unique and fairly simple method for treating fungal flora and pathogenic microbes in the outer ear. The method is based on the ancient method of Jewish traditional medicine and the experience of folk healers. The diaries contain notes on the results of using this method in patients with chronic otomycosis. In the overwhelming majority of cases, a significant improvement in the condition was noted already on the third to fourth day, and by the end of the week, the symptoms of inflammation disappeared. The history of the disease of the outer ear demonstrates that improper care of the ear canal leads to severe infections resistant to modern therapy. We have to admit, sometimes traditional medicine is powerless against the ancient strategies of microorganisms. However, the experience of previous generations of doctors, carefully preserved in family diaries, gives hope for ways to solve the problem. Simple and affordable means, the correct technique of ear treatment and the rejection of excessive hygiene can be the key to successful treatment where modern drugs are powerless. Note: before using any treatment methods, especially those related to the ear canal, you must consult an otolaryngologist to avoid complications and not harm your health. The hearing aid is the most delicate and complex instrument. Not every engineer would have thought of converting the mechanical vibrations of the eardrum into electrical impulses of neurons. It is clear that such a delicate system needs to be protected from pathogens from the outside. This is what sulfur and 2000 sulfur glands are for. No one will tell you exactly why the semicircular canals in the cochlea are needed, why the auricle is needed in our organ of hearing. Where it is not clear, these parts of the organs are treated in science as the appendix in the intestine. Medicine considers them atavisms, organs that have lost their functions in the process of evolution. But this can be argued. After all, it turned out that the appendix is a repository of bacteria needed for the intestine. And without the symbiosis of man and intestinal microflora, we cannot live normally. Listen and read my lecture, How Bacteria Control Us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Dr. Shulman Jewish Values. Write us your opinion and questions.